Hello everybody, my name is Ruben. This is my YouTube channel. I was born in New Jersey in the United States on October 29, 2002, but my family was born in Armenia, Yerevan, the capital of Armenia, which was one of the 15 Soviet republics. So today I'm going to be covering the era under Nikita Khrushchev, the man who came in power as the leader of Soviet Union following Stalin's death in March 1953 to 19, October 14, 1964, when he was overthrown by Soviet government officials led by Leonid Brezhnev. So Khrushchev was the former first secretary of the Communist Party of Soviet Union for 11 years. So his rule it didn't last for a long time, like the previous leaders, the previous leader like Stalin, who ruled for almost 30 years, from 1927 to 1924 when Lenin died, to 1953 when he died. So 1953 was 2 years before my father was born, because my father was born in 1955 during the rule of Khrushchev. So Khrushchev he was also prime minister of Soviet Union, and during his rule, there's this the Soviets put missiles in Cuba in 1962, in October 1962, when the United States put nuclear missiles in Turkey and Cuba. Turkey was close to the Soviet Republic of Armenia, and the United States put nuclear missiles in Italy. So as the Soviet Union response was Soviet Union send these missiles to Cuba, and that scared a lot of people in United States and in Soviet Union. So one day in October, it was October 15th or 16th of 1962, a U.S. U-2 spy plane, United States spy plane, saw the nuclear missiles from Cuba, and they reported it back to United States President John F. Kennedy at the time. And then Kennedy told Nikita Khrushchev to remove missiles from Cuba. And Khrushchev said, no, we're using them for only self-defense. And during that time, he told Khrushchev again, remove the missiles out of Cuba, and Khrushchev did not listen. And so if United States attacked drop a bomb on Cuba, it would result in all-out nuclear war between the Soviet Union and the United States, and it could even start a World War III during that time. So that was kind of scary because because Cuba was 90 miles away from the United States with Florida, and during that time, after that, this Nikita Khrushchev took missiles out of Cuba. On October 27, 1962, he made an announcement on radio that he would take missiles out of Cuba during that time. And after that, the Cuban Missile Crisis ended. But a year before that, in 1961, Nikita Khrushchev and United States President John F. Kennedy met in Vienna to discuss the future of Germany and nuclear tests during that time. And in October 1961, a year before the Caribbean crisis happened in Cuba, there was a standoff between United States tanks and East Germany, the Berlin during that time, and there was a confrontation between United States tanks and Soviet Union tanks. So they could, if they attacked each other in Berlin, it could start a World War III. But then United States President convinced Nikita Khrushchev to take out the Soviet tanks out of Berlin, and they both did during that time. But before that, in August 1961, the Soviet Union built the wall over the Berlin Wall. So the people from East Germany, which was the German Democratic Republic, Republic at the time, so they couldn't escape from the factories, because if they left the factories, that means there were going to be less people in the factories. So Soviet Union built a wall over Germany, over the East and West Germany. The West was capitalist, and the East was communist. Was a communist country. So during that, they built a wall so they won't escape, and they built a wall so they don't escape, and they built a wall. They had this wires on this wall so they can't escape. And if people tried to escape, they would be shot by the East German officials if they tried to escape. But before that, in 1960, he gave a speech at United Nations, and he started banging a shoe on the table, and I'm not sure what happened. There was some reports saying that it was true or not true, or if it didn't happen. I wasn't alive during that time, so I don't know the actual story. So after that, and during that same year in 1960, United States spy plane was flying over Soviet airspace, and the Soviet Union detected a United States plane flying over the Soviet airspace, and so the Soviet Union launched a missile, and then it destroyed the ship. The ship crashed in Soviet airspace. But then the pilot actually survived the crash, which led to strict relations between the Soviet Union and which is Russia today, but then it was called Soviet Union, and then between and United States, which led to strict relations between those two countries during that time. So, yep, that's the story under Nikita Khrushchev during that time. So then in 1957, there was a coup against Khrushchev to remove Khrushchev from power during that time. And then there's Yuri Manglenkov, the former prime minister of Soviet Union, wanted to create a coup against Nikita Khrushchev, but it failed. So Manglenkov was expelled from the Communist Party of Soviet Union, and then he was sent to, I think it was Kazakhstan, which was one of the Soviet republics during that time. So he was expelled, and then he withdrew from public life. And now I'm going to be talking about the downfall to Nikita Khrushchev's rule. So while Khrushchev was on vacation in Pitsanda, Georgia, which was one of the 15 republics of the former Soviet Union. So he was on vacation, and then he received a phone call during that time, and he received a phone call during that time by some top government officials from Soviet Union. And then they told him, you need to come back. You have to face these problems that you're dealing with in Moscow. So Khrushchev returned to Moscow to deal with the situation, what was going on during that time. And so Khrushchev was removed as the first secretary of Communist Party of Soviet Union by Leonid Brezhnev and Alexei Kosygin. So Brezhnev became the new leader of Soviet Union, or the first secretary of Communist Party of Soviet Union, while Gagarin became the prime minister of Soviet Union. But before that, there was this huge space. There was a deal in the space going on. There was a space race because there was the Soviet Union launched Sputnik in space in 1957, and then there was a dog in space that was Laika. They launched the first animal ever in space during that time, and I think it survived, or I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to research it again. But years later, in 1961, the Soviet Union launched the first man ever in space, Yuri Gagarin. When he launched it, the Soviet Union launched Yuri Gagarin in space during that time from Kazakhstan, which was the one of the Soviet republics during that time. And he was launched. He was in the ship called Vostok. Vostok was this Russian spaceship during that time. So he was launched in space, and then he said this famous quote, "Bayechali." Bayechali, that means "let's go." And so orbited the space. He orbited the space, and then one time when he was trying to get back to the Earth, his spaceship caught on fire, but then he actually survived. The ship came back to Earth, and then he landed somewhere in the Soviet Union. I think it was the Russian Republic, one of the Soviet republics during that time. And then following this, Gagarin became a famous celebrity. He became very famous. So, yeah, that's the story of my family's life under their first leader, Nikita Khrushchev. So, next video, I'm planning on talking about the era of Leonid Brezhnev, the second leader my family lived under. My father remembers the rule of Brezhnev. And then following that, I'm going to be talking about the other leaders, the three other leaders my family lived under. Yuri Andropov, Konstantin Chernenko, and Mikhail Gorbachev. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you, and I will be uploading more videos soon. До свидания.